Today, we're digging into something pretty unexpected, actually. Our source material. It's excerpts, focusing on one specific day of testimony. A really surprising day in that recent high-profile trial involving Diddy. So, our mission here is to unpack the connections that came out, the alleged collusion, and maybe some systemic stuff that these sources say was revealed. Revealed when this one particular witness took the stand. It's not just about the charges, It's about what was said under oath, suggesting this whole web of power, silence, strategic alliances. Let's get into it.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating based on these sources is how this testimony seemed to, pull back the curtain a bit. Not just on the person on trial, but maybe on bigger dynamics within the whole industry, allegedly anyway.
Okay, so let's paint the picture. Day 6 of the trial. The sources say the courtroom, thick with anticipation. Reporters everywhere expecting something big. But apparently, nothing prepared them for Monique showing up.
Yeah, she wasn't on the list, apparently. Total surprise. And the sources mentioned Diddy's reaction reportedly tensing up, leaning in.
Sketch artists even caught a slight twitch, the reports say.
Wow. Yeah, the whole energy must have shifted when she sat down. Her voice was described as firm, clear right from the start.
And she said why she was there right away, to speak the truth under oath, finally getting a formal platform for these warnings she claims she'd been giving for years about Hollywood, warnings often ignored.
And importantly, her testimony didn't just focus on Diddy. The sources really highlight how she reportedly drew these direct lines, connecting Puff Diddy with Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, and even Bishop T.D. Jakes.
Right, and she didn't just come with her story. The sources say she came prepared. Timelines, receipts, she called them, even transcripts of recordings, trying to back up her claims.
Yeah, not just anecdotes, potential evidence being presented. And a big chunk of her testimony, according to these sources, was about Tyler Perry.
Okay, so let's unpack that. One of the first big things, based on the sources, a private phone call. 2018, she testified Perry admitted her career struggles after Precious Lame. The alleged blackballing was unjust. Perry apparently said he was wrong, even promised a public apology.
But he never gave one. And the reason, according to Monique's testimony, he allegedly said going public would cause blowback on people who weren't ready to be exposed.
And this is where it got intense. She's asked who Perry was worried about exposing.
Okay.
And the sources say she looked right at the jury and said, Puff.
Puff, that's who he was worried about. Puff, Daddy, Diddy, whatever you want to call him.
Yeah. And the sources describe gasps, visible reactions in the courtroom.
Even from the prosecution team. Big moment.
Mm-hmm.
She also reportedly added that Perry mentioned concern about too many people tied to too many NDAs.
Non-disclosure agreements, legal silencing tools.
Exactly. And that detail, reported in the sources, suggests maybe a whole network potentially protected by these NDAs.
Then she really upped the ante, introduced a transcript, a recording of that call.
Right.
And the sources quote Perry allegedly saying, and this is reportedly from the material, "There are things going on that I can't be connected to publicly. We've all seen things at Puff's parties that we're not supposed to talk about."
Wow. And the judge allowed the transcript, pending authentication, but still.
Yeah, pending authentication of the audio.
Okay, so the implication there, based purely on the sources, is pretty significant. It's not just that other powerful people knew what was allegedly happening, but that they might have actively stayed quiet, to protect brands' relationships, maybe tied by those NDAs.
The defense objected, of course, called it speculative.
Naturally.
But the prosecution, according to the sources, argued it was crucial context. Context for how silence and reputation management allegedly shielded Diddy for years, maybe enabling more bad behavior. The judge let it stand, based on this material.
So then Monique pivots, right, to a personal story, a Diddy party. The sources say this really grabbed the courtroom's attention.
Yeah, she testified about 2006, invited to a private LA party by another actor, told it was networking gold, arrived at this huge Hollywood Hills estate.
And the details she gave, according to the sources, were pretty vivid. Valet taking phones, candles everywhere, R&B music, guests being ushered into back rooms.
She described seeing a woman in heels and a man in nothing but a bathrobe.
Yeah.
And then hearing one of Diddy's assistants allegedly say, "It's all about experience here. You're safe if you sign the NDA, Dot."
The NDA again.
Oh.
And her response.
Immediate. She testified she walked out right then, didn't sign anything.
He's left.
Yep. And then she described the fallout, or what she perceived as fallout. Phone stops ringing for big roles, invites dry up, here she's difficult.
Yeah, the difficult label.
She testified she suspected leaving that party, refusing to sign, made her a liability.
And her belief, stated under oath, was that it felt orchestrated like a system. The sources point out, others like Cassie Ventura testified about control. But Monique's angle was different. A respected actress who chose to leave, she says, and then claims she got cut out for not playing along.
Right. Then, the sources say, her testimony started connecting Perry, Bishop Jakes, and Diddy through alleged strategy.
She basically stated her belief that Tyler Perry was actively protecting Diddy's image. Not by accident, but strategic coordinated, part of a larger effort to keep things quiet.
And she brings up that well-known event, Tyler Perry giving $1 million to T.D. Jakes' church.
Right, that got a lot of press.
Her interpretation, though, according to the sources, pretty provocative. Not a blessing, she reportedly said, but a transaction. Damage control.
Wow. Calling the church a shield used to build alliances, made people look untouchable. Strong words.
And she linked it to timing. She claimed, based on the sources, that around the time of that donation, negative stories about Diddy's party started vanishing from blogs.
Interesting correlation she's drawing.
She stated her belief people were being paid, influenced, silenced. That the money was for peace, for silence.
And the prosecution showed photos.
Yeah, photos of Perry and Diddy together at a bed event soon after, smiling. Monique reportedly used that to argue the industry didn't just protect Diddy, it elevated him, despite everything.
Okay, so let's go back to that recorded call transcript. The sources emphasized this came up again under oath.
Yeah, she pulls out the printed transcript in court, says clearly, I recorded it, I told Perry I was recording, he was fine with it then.
And the transcript itself, what did it allegedly say?
According to the source material, it quotes Perry admitting, I know I messed up, you were never difficult. You just didn't want to work for free. I should have said that publicly.
But he didn't, and the transcript explains why.
Allegedly, yes. According to her testimony and the transcript, he pivots, says, but I can't go public. Puff's name's wrapped up in too much right now.
Wrapped up in too much. Vague, but suggestive.
And then this. She alleged Perry told her if Puff went down, a lot of people were going with him.
A lot of people.
People that fund movies, people that sign checks.
Okay, that detail, the sources note, really seemed to back up those earlier hints about Diddy's influence being, like, institutional, deep in the money side of Hollywood.
The sources say Monique got pretty emotional here. Testified Perry had this chance to clear her name after years of being labeled unfairly, but he chose not to.
Protecting something bigger than me, something darker than anyone wants to admit, was the quote reported.
That's what the sources report her saying, and the transcript was ruled admissible. That reportedly shook the defense.
You can imagine. Then, surprisingly, she brings Oprah Winfrey into it.
Yeah, connecting her to this alleged power structure raised her name with a specific point.
What was the incident?
She recounted something from 2010. She'd told Oprah something deeply personal about childhood abuse. Oprah allegedly promised not to exploit it. But then Monique testified. Oprah had her brother on the show to discuss that very abuse. Right after Monique had turned down the unpaid press tour for Precious.
The timing seems key there, in Monique's view.
Exactly. She felt betrayed. Oprah apparently called it business. But Monique testified she believed they were trying to shut me up, using her own trauma.
And how does she connect Oprah back to Perry and Diddy?
She alleged they shared methods, resources, NDAs again.
Same playbook.
High-level PR crisis teams, mutual handlers. She said the same people cleaning up messes.
Did she offer any proof for that?
She mentioned an alleged email chain, said a PR rep accidentally forwarded it to her. Subject line reportedly had her name, Puff's name, and Tyler's name, discussing how to manage optics.
Optics, okay. She gave a redacted version to the judge.
That's what the sources say. Her message on this point was clear. This power structure felt coordinated, not just protecting Diddy, but like a silence machine built to crush anyone who asked questions.
Heavy stuff. So after a break, she comes back with this idea of an unwritten list.
Yeah, an unwritten list in Hollywood. The untouchables.
And she named names.
According to her testimony, yes. Puff, Tyler, and Oprah. Said Oprah practically created it.
And the consequence for crossing them.
You get labeled difficult, crazy, or worse, dangerous to the industry. She testified she experienced that directly after 2010.
Did she connect this to others?
She raised questions about patterns, asked basically how many people worked with Diddy, Tyler, Oprah, and then just disappeared.
Vanished from the scene.
Yeah, cited actors who had initial success, then faded. Suggested reasons, didn't play the game, said no, or maybe saw things they were never supposed to see.
And there was that redacted statement.
Right, from another actor. describing a retreat. Powerful male filmmaker. Phones taken, contracts, weird rituals.
She didn't explicitly name Perry for that one.
No, but the sources say the way she presented it let the jury connect dots, maybe implying similar environments existed.
Her point being
That the industry was protecting secrets, not art. And the price for truth. Your career, reputation, peace. You're left wondering why the phone never rings again.
So did she directly accuse Diddy of playing a role in her own career issues?
Yes. When asked directly, she reportedly nodded yes. Added she didn't realize how deep it went until years later.
How does she say she realized?
She talked about a call from a junior exec at Revolt TV, Diddy's company, after the Precious stuff. Exec allegedly told her, "You rubbed the wrong people. It's not just about Tyler and Oprah. Puff don't like noise either."
Implying Diddy was involved in the pushback.
That was the implication. The exec supposedly hinted Perry's team had approached Diddy about projects, and Monique, being outspoken, was seen as an obstacle.
So meetings between Perry and Diddy where she was discussed as a problem, not talent.
That's what she alleged happened.
And prosecution had emails supporting this coordination idea.
Yeah, the sources mention emails between a PR firm hired by both Revolt TV and Tyler Perry Studios.
Hired by both.
Reportedly discussing how to manage narratives around both Monique and Cassie Ventura. A direct digital link-in strategy, the email supposedly said.
Wow. And the difficult label.
She testified it felt intentional, passed around like a virus to casting directors. A coded reason to say no.
Then she made that really powerful statement.
I wasn't blackballed, I was whiteballed by black people.
Could you unpack what she meant by that, based on the sources?
Her explanation was that she believed powerful black figures in the industry were more scared of losing their own seat at the table than they were willing to stand up for her or do what she felt was right. Fear of losing access.
That's a really complex and painful perspective. Did she talk about why she decided to testify at all, given the history?
She did. Said she initially declined the prosecution's request. Too much trauma.
What changed her mind?
Witnessing things during the trial itself. The alleged Prince recording, Diddy shouting, Cassie's testimony.
It moved her to act.
She described it as spiritual clarity, said she heard her grandmother's voice. "Baby, don't let them write your story without you in the room."
Powerful. And that's why she felt she had to be there.
Yeah. So towards the very end, the prosecution asks her about the root cause of this whole system of silence she described.
And her answer?
One word, according to the sources: fear.
Fear of what?
Losing jobs, deals, relevance, fear of the truth. And she stated that figures like Puff, Tyler, and Oprah had allegedly made it very expensive to not be afraid.
Made it costly to speak out.
Exactly. Then there was that moment, the sources describe, where she looked towards Diddy, quietly but clearly said, "You thought nobody would talk, but now you're sitting in silence, and I hope you finally hear us."
And that affected him.
Reportedly left him visibly shaken, shifted the whole courtroom energy. She, the one silenced for years, suddenly had the most powerful voice in the room, according to these accounts.
So as she's about to step down, she delivers one last challenge. About Perry.
Yeah, a final direct challenge. Looked at the defense table, named Tyler Perry again, calmly, firmly.
And the challenge was?
Ask Mr. Perry why I was blackballed after refusing to work for free.
And bring it back to the Precious Press Tour issue.
And then look who stood beside him at every event. The implication being it's about the system, the culture. Who protected who?
And she claimed he actively worked against her, making calls.
Yes, doubled down on that. Alleged he made calls to stop others hiring her. Referenced call logs. Mentioned Lee Daniels.
Held up a folder too, though it wasn't evidence.
Right. And she mentioned the audio again. I have audio. Tyler apologizing. Refused to go public. Said it would ruin everything.
And her absolute final line.
As reported in the sources, I'm done protecting men who never protected me.
Just powerful. The sources suggest that line resonated more than maybe any exhibit.
Yeah, it reportedly shifted focus, not just the man on trial, but the whole alleged infrastructure of power around him.
Making the jury look beyond just Diddy, potentially, to the system the testimony described.
Okay, so let's quickly recap this deep dive into the Monique testimony sources. What we got was a picture of alleged coordination, powerful figures working together.
A system of silence, reportedly driven by fear. Fear of losing your spot, rocking the boat, challenging the untouchables.
And testimony detailing how tools like NDAs, PR, strategic alliances were allegedly used for protection, impacting careers, hiding secrets.
And as the sources really emphasized, this testimony seemed to broaden the lens in the courtroom, from just individual acts to a potential systemic issue in a powerful industry.
So you've now unpacked the main points, the connections revealed in this specific source material.
Yeah, and it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Considering this testimony about an unwritten list, a silence machine, if that kind of power dynamic allegedly exists in Hollywood, how might information be controlled? Or truth suppressed? Elsewhere? In other influential fields, maybe even in systems closer to your own life, definitely something to mull over.